2018, 2018. Happy New Year, everybody. I can't believe we made it. I think we made it, unless we're all in the midst of some kind of crazy simulation, which we may be anyway, so maybe we're not going to start there. Happy New Year. I know I think a lot of us, yesterday was a really celebratory day for a lot of reasons because we're saying goodbye to a year that was, I think, for everybody collectively pretty horrifying. I know a lot of people had challenges personally and with their own lives and families and businesses, and it was a year of challenge and with a lot of, obviously, the world. Let's be honest, a lot of problems going on. And I think the thing that we need to all be thinking about, what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to think about going into 2018 is the fact that we've all had a pretty easy ride for a long time. And I mean that collectively as North Americans. I think a lot of us have lived in a lot of privilege. I think a lot of us have wanted for very little. And I think last year was a real eye-opener for a lot of people who really may have still been sort of tuned out to what's going on in the world and still sort of living in a pipe. And I think what hopefully everyone's learning is we can't do that. We've all become so disconnected and so fragmented, yet we're all so connected, more connected than we've ever been, thanks to the internet. But we've stopped with community. There's been a real gap in actual real life interaction and real life community involvement. And I think we saw a resurgence of that in 2017, which was amazing. I mean, I think for a lot of people, especially women, it started with the Women's March on January 21st last year, 22nd, I think. And I think a lot of us felt really unified for the first time collectively. And that turned into, obviously, a huge movement that I think probably assisted in a lot of the acceptance, I think, of a lot of the predatory white male privilege behavior that's existed, that I think a lot of us have had our eyes closed to, and I think we've all sort of participated. And I mean, I know a lot of the conversations I've had over the last little while have been about, conversations about, things we've done in the past or things that we may have collectively as humans done to perpetuate what we're seeing. And I think, what we can all do is take a step forward and recognize the fact that, when you know better, you do better. And I think a lot of people who were ill-informed or who may have been, asleep to a lot of different causes last year awoke to them. And I think we have, there's a lot of allies in the world. There's a lot of incredible human beings in the world. And I think what is exciting about 2018 is the prospect of continuing to sort of forge those networks of incredible people. I know for me personally, over the last sort of 24, 36 months, there's been a lot of really amazing people who've come into my life, who've either been in my life or who've sort of taken bigger roles in my life, just because I think I've realized that all of the things that I've tried to do as a solo person in the world have not been as effective as I think they could have been in lending to more community and more collaboration. And I've always obviously been a big proponent of collaboration. But for me right now, I think what's really important going into 2018 and hopefully what we'll see in the next, 6 to 12 months is, people really starting to take control of the things that they can in their lives in order to, benefit the greater consciousness and the greater good in the world. And I think rather than, we've all been in this world of capitalism and this sort of me first mentality. And I think, there is a massive gap we're all being shown that, there is privilege, that, there is too large of a gap between have and have not, and we need to do something. And the world is literally on fire all around us, and obviously it's not just the United States. There's been a lot that's going around and happening globally, and I think the one common element to that is there's been a lot of really poor leadership on the planet, and I think we collectively as human beings assume that people who are, running companies, running governments are there for the right reasons and have some kind of integrity. And I think we're all learning that that's not been correct. Whether that's, for Harvey Weinstein in Hollywood, or whether that's in government, or whether that's in, industries, whether it's advertising, or, we've obviously seen an influx of blue collar situations where people are talking about some of the issues that go on in the workplace, in different environments. And I think we're seeing that there's a pattern, and there's a pattern of poor behavior, there's a pattern of greed, there's a pattern of ego, and all those things collectively have resulted in what we've seen in 2017. So for me, there's a little bit of course we're in this position where, all of this is happening because we've been asleep at the wheel, and we've been, spending too much time focused on, what's next for me? What am I doing? And I think, we need to stop focusing on that mentality, because the world is on fire and it's not working. And you know what? When things are working, if you want to get back to, the crazy lifestyle and, singular focus of me, awesome. But while the world's on fire, I think we all have a responsibility to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. And whether that's from a business standpoint or from a life standpoint, and actually looking at, okay, well, how can I change things? How can I vibrate higher? How can I do a better job on a daily basis? And I'm saying this, I was an asshole for a long time. I mean, I don't think that's a secret. I've not always made the best decisions. And, I've been through a lot of different things in my life that, affected the way that I made decisions. And that's not an excuse. That's just the way it is. When you go through trauma, it changes the way that you make decisions, and it changes the way that you show up in the world, and it changes the kind of people that you attract and the kind of people that you want to have connections with. I mean, for me, for a long time, I vibrated towards people who were abusive towards me, who I thought were cool because I grew up in an environment where that was, status quo. So for me, a lot of, trying to vibrate higher is just looking at my own shit. And I think a lot of people find what's going on in the world really overwhelming, and they don't know where to start, and they don't know where they fit. And why I'm telling you this, and why I share in an excruciating way, is because I know that you can change, and you can focus your energy on making better contributions to the world on a daily basis. And it doesn't take any more energy than being a dick. And at the end of the day, it's less energy because there's less conflict, there's less drama, because you're showing up in with a level of honesty. And I think, there's a lot of people that still think I'm a dick, but I am upfront about what my shit is. And I think, we show up in the world on a daily basis as human beings. We're motivated by different things. And for me, I've always been motivated by making things and sort of like being escapist because of how I grew up. So for me, being a producer and, showing up in the world and wanting to make things with people is not a surprise, because that's always what's brought me joy in my life is, creating something with other people and really connecting into that. And what I've realized in the past, few years is you can achieve that in all aspects of your life, not just in business, by actually collaborating and existing in more of a community. And, I'm always say that I'm a business hippie, and I am. I mean, I really believe that there's a way to do this and to be successful and to contribute to the world and to sort of, try to do the best you can on a daily basis. And, ideally try and, fix some of the the bad things or, bad decisions that you've made in your life, by just showing up and being accountable. And I think, we're all living in our own lives and environments where, there's, mandatory posturing in business, so you can't always be, 100% who you are. But I think there's a way to be present without necessarily having to be 100% vulnerable. And I think, learning how to do that and learning how to show up and cutting the bullshit is something that we can all do starting today, in 2018, and really just be able to, show up and have conversations and be honest and talk about where things really are. And I think, we learned in 2017 that it was okay to say, I'm not fine. Things are not fine. And it was an exhausting year and we're in the trenches, but I think we're an army, which I think is really exciting. There's a lot of connectivity. I certainly feel it. And I'm really excited about making connections, reconnecting, and really just, being present in the world and trying to just do what I can every day on the days where I'm not too exhausted, because it's exhausting. And I think it's important that we admit that. I think there's a lot going on, and I think, sometimes it's hard to get out of bed, and I think we need to start talking about that. And I certainly, welcome it, especially in a business environment. I think for years and years, it's been really hard to actually show up again as a person and say, hey, I had a really tough weekend, or hey, I'm going through something tough, without being judged or without feeling like it's going to impact, your career. And I think we're all learning that, everyone's got shit happening. People, there's literally, huge, massive tragedies and natural disasters happening every single day on the planet right now. And I think it's really important that we actually talk about it and bear witness to it rather than pretending it's not going on. And I think back to 9/11, and I think about what happened that day at work. And, it wasn't really a work day. I was working on Alliance Atlantis. It was UATV. And I remember just being there and just being together. Part of it was just about being together. I don't think we got anything done that day. But I think about that a lot, because I think about all the trauma and things that are going on in the world. And I think about how much of that is just, we're just moving through it. And I think that's wrong. And whether that means, starting to change your focus on a day-to-day, business standpoint, or whether it's, starting to have different kinds of conversations with friends and family, I think we owe it to ourselves to be doing that. We're all alive in 2017 because of all the people who came before us. And I think the one thing that I want to leave you with for 2018 is the fact that we're all here for a reason. All of our ancestors, and however we all got here, have lived through all kinds of shit that's been crazier than this. And we are more equipped than we've ever been to get out of this. And we can get out of this. I mean, we don't have to start 2019 the way that we're starting this year. I think we can focus our energy, and rather than focusing on, completely selfish objectives, to start to look at, what can I do that's going to benefit me and others? And it's about being mutually beneficial. And I think, people can do things on a daily basis that can change a lot in the world. Sorry, the dog's running around. I don't know why. She's excited about everything I'm saying. But I think the one thing that I wanted to sort of leave with today is, I know I speak for a lot of people when I say, 2017 was probably the hardest year of my life. I feel like it was like 3 years in one. But I think that's what we're in for. I think we just have to be ready for it. And I'm ready for it. I hope you are too. And wish you lots of love. Bye!